Hello everyone, welcome back. Today, let's talk a little bit about the school shootings and what I think would be a viable solution, because obviously nobody wants to see children being hurt in schools. I've got small kids in schools, so this is a very important issue to me. So in order to understand what's happening, we first have to understand human nature, okay? Humans are inherently violent, okay? That's our nature. I mean, humans are at the top of the food chain for a reason, because we are the most violent beings on this planet, okay? So, and this has been going on now for thousands and thousands of years, right? The people that have survived in general are the most violent, okay? And they keep passing on that trait, okay? So that's the first thing we gotta understand, right? That humans are inherently violent. We have to understand this, and we have to learn how to deal with this, okay? Which is not something new, all right? This is something that we've been dealing with for a long time, because it's just how humans are. So, I mean, I've got small kids from the time that these kids were able to walk, okay? Got three of them. All they want to do is fight with each other. They want to hit each other. They want to be violent, okay? It's in the DNA. You can't stop it. They've inherited it from me and my wife, who, of course, I've inherited down from many generations. But that's one of the things that you can do. You can watch small kids who don't even know how to talk yet, right? Who are just, getting comfortable on their feet. And if you put a bunch of toddlers together long enough, you will see that they want to hit each other. Okay, that's what they do. My job as a parent, okay, is to teach my children how to deal with their natural violence. Okay, so basically we discipline them, and one of the tools that we use is sports. Okay, because sports are combative. Okay, most sports, okay, resemble some type of warfare, right? Even if it's something like basketball, right? Let's say where you're just trying to put a ball through a hoop, but you're using tactics of, getting into position, boxing people out, so most sports that we do in some way resemble combat, which is the reason why they are interesting to us, okay? Also, the entertainment that we mostly watch, okay, a lot of it is very violent, okay? Now, one of the things, and I've said this before, that us watching a movie that depicts what we call an action movie, right? That depicts some type of violence, people getting killed, is really no different than sitting in a Roman Colosseum some 2,000 years ago, watching people getting eaten by wild animals, getting killed for real. Because now you might say, no, that was real people dying, and this is fake people dying, right? But the thing to understand with the entertainment industry, how successful a movie is depends on the director's ability to convince you, right, that what you're seeing is actually happening. So a good movie, right, is one that basically kind of gets inside of us. We believe that we're actually there. We're attached to the characters. When one of them is hurt or threatened, we feel it, right? So at that moment in our mind, okay, people are actually dying. That's how our mind interprets it. So our mind is being fooled into believing that those people are really dying in an action movie, right? But so psychologically, internally, the same thing is going on, right? Whether it's you're in the Roman Colosseum watching prisoners of war being executed, right? Because that's who a lot of the people were that were killed in the Colosseum, and people were rooting for them to be killed, okay? Because those were the bad guys, those were prisoners of war. So that's no different than us watching a violent movie where we're seeing the bad guy getting killed and we're all cheering from it. Same exact thing is happening in our minds. Okay, so this is important because we got to understand human nature, how the mind works, in order to understand what's going on with in some of these schools, which is like, I think that people are just not like stopping to really understand what is going on. Okay, so the first thing that they got to understand, right, if you're in the business of trying to solve this problem of school violence is understanding that kids, from the time that they're able to walk, are naturally violent. Okay, I've got 3 small kids, like I said before. All they want to do it now. They're older, right now. They're like got a 5-year-old, an 8-year-old, and 9-year-old, and all they do is fight with each other. And me and my wife have to kind of get in between them and try to discipline them, right? So that's our job as parents, to treat them, to control their natural violence. Okay. So what I think that you're seeing in schools with a lot of these active shooters, right, with these school shooters, is that, especially when it's like kids on kids type of stuff, they have not gotten that discipline, okay, which is essential, right? And it's hard. Like, it actually takes me and my wife full time, dealing with the kids, trying to discipline them. If it was just my wife alone or just me alone, I think that would be an almost impossible task to try and and basically try to get that natural violence that our kids have under some type of control. So it takes an effort of 2 people, right? And it's still very, very difficult. So to me, I look at a lot of these other families, right, where it's like single mother, single father, and I see it as an almost impossible task. Okay, so I think that is the starting point. The real problem that we're seeing with a lot of these, I think the most common thread that I think that we will find with a lot of these school shootings is that they come from a broken family, an undisciplined family, a family that hasn't taught them how to deal with their violent tendencies, with the difficulties that develop through life. A lot of times people were saying, "Hey, this happened in school, and they were bullied, and that." But that's real life, man. They have to be taught how to deal with those difficulties that arise, because kids will tease each other, right? There will be a certain amount of bullying. I was in school too, man. That's just how. That's part of going through that process of growing up, and kids need to be taught how to deal with it. Okay, so part of the reason why I think we're having a lot of these school shootings is because the kids are not being taught how to deal with the difficulties, and they're not being taught how to control the natural violence that they have inherited. Okay, so if you guys watch my channel, you guys know that almost all the activities that I participate are violence based. All right, so and it's not the shooting, right? When you guys see me here at the shooting range shooting, that's relaxing, man, because that's not violence. I'm just shooting at a steel target that's not shooting back. That's just having fun. That's that's not violence. The violence when you guys see me in armor, okay, hitting other people with clubs, okay. So, and I'm 52 years old, okay. So at 52 years old, for me to still be doing this, right? You can understand, that can give you some type of idea of the inner drive, right? That I have, right? So for a lot of, probably 20% of society, they haven't inherited any of that violence, right? So, there's probably about 10 to 20% of society that can't understand of anything of what I'm saying, right? It's just completely foreign to them, okay? And then you probably got, I don't know, maybe a 60% in the middle that has inherited a normal amount of that violency trait, right? And usually when they're younger, they get involved with sports, right, as a way to vent those natural tendencies. Usually by the time they get into their mid-30s, that kind of fizzles out a little bit, right? Testosterone levels drop, okay, after they get into their 30s, into the mid-30s. Certainly by the time they're approaching 40s, about 60% of people turn into couch potatoes, right? So now I'm part of the 20% that's like at the far end, where I'm like 52 years old and I'm still going hardcore, man. And here's the thing: at 52 years old, yeah, I still got the aches and pains of a 52-year-old man, okay? But the drive to fight is overwhelming, okay? I've actually I had there was one situation where I woke up and I had a terrible backache, and I could like barely, like I was using the rails to try and get up the stairs, but it was a fighting day, man. It was a day that I had scheduled to go and get into armor and fight. And you know what I did? I mean, the drive to fight was so overwhelming that despite having a backache, I went to the practice, got in armor, right? And it was almost painful getting into armor, right? And then I started fighting, okay? But once I started fighting, that adrenaline kicked in, and the endorphins and the painkillers, because the adrenal glands release painkillers, and all of a sudden that, that pain in my back, it didn't matter so much. What was more important was hitting the guy in front of me, okay? So the point I'm trying to make is there's probably a 20% of society, right, that is hyper violent, okay, well past, their 50s, okay? And there's ways to deal with it, through sports, through combat sports. There's ways to deal with it. And these are the things that need to be taught to the kids so that they can learn to deal with these natural, violent tendencies that we have as humans, that we have inherited over thousands of years, okay? Now, how do we actually deal with the problem, right? Because again, okay, fine, that's the explanation. So now you got this problem, okay? There's only one way to deal with violence, and that is with better violence, okay? You got these people that want to do harm, right? And, let's say they're entering a school. The only way to counter that is with better violence, okay? At that moment, at that particular moment, right? Because the part about training them and disciplining them and teaching them to deal, that's all failed, right? That's failed. That's, we're past that. That's failed. So at that moment, when somebody enters a school, right, or some other type of or something else, right, or someplace else, and they're there to hurt people, right, the only way to counter that, okay, is with immediate counter violence. And I say immediate. That doesn't mean call the police and wait 5 to 10 minutes for them to show up. It has to be immediate by the people that are there. So in the case of a school, it has to be the staff, okay? Now, yes, I understand that not all people are suited to carrying and training with guns, but a good chunk of the staff, first of all, they own guns. They, especially in a state like this, like Pennsylvania, they carry guns anyway, right? It's just that when they get to work, they can't bring it, they can't bring it to work with them, but they can take it to the supermarket, okay? So people that are carrying guns anyway, or would be carrying guns anyway, those people should be allowed to bring the guns into the school. So if there is a problem, right, that requires, if there's a violent problem that requires immediate counter violence, right, they are there and they're ready. And they're not doing it so much to protect the kids, they're doing it to protect themselves, okay? So that's the driving incentive, okay? If somebody comes into a building and it tries to kill you, your first thought's going to be to, stop them to protect yourself, okay? And by stopping them and protecting yourself, you're also protecting the other people that are there. So by allowing the school staff that would normally be carrying guns anyway, right, allowing them to, to bring their guns to school just like they would to the supermarket on the weekend, right? If something happens where they basically are able to protect themselves, they're also protecting everybody else. They're also protecting the kids. Okay. Now, my school, it does have armed security. However, it's not enough. Having 1 or 2 armed security guards is not enough because you don't know what's going to happen, where it's going to happen, and you may have a situation where that 1 or 2 guards is just not mentally prepared that day. They're not fast enough. They're not in the right spot. Maybe they're in the bathroom. Whatever. It has to be more than just 1 or 2 armed security personnel. It has to be the regular people that are there, okay? People that normally have carry permits, and carry guns wherever they go. They should be allowed to enter a school or enter a federal building for that matter. The way they and just normally go about their business the way they would normally go about their business. Okay, so a couple of things for you guys to think about, and not just think about, but also I want to give you guys this information so that you can kind of think about it and talk about it with other people, right? And the starting point of this is understanding human nature. what are humans? They are super violent, right? That's why we are the top predators on this planet, okay? That's why we're at the top of the food chain. We are super violent. And you can't just switch that off because you now put people in a cubicle or in a classroom, okay? That violent trait is still going to be there. It's just that people have to be trained on how to deal with that violent trait, that violent survival trait, right? Because if we didn't have that violent survival trait, we wouldn't be alive today, okay? So they have to be able to manage that violent survival trait that they have, okay? Now, at the point where, okay, the training and the discipline, doesn't work, it was never done, and you're presented with a person that wants to harm people, the only answer to violence is superior counter violence, okay? So some things for you guys to think about. Drop some comments below, and I'll talk to you all soon.